Hello YouTube, this is Ready Set Exploit and we're going to be doing Recon 1 from Vulnhub, which aims to test you on basic recon skills. We start by finding a WordPress site on a web server which gives us a username that, along if we can get the password from WPScan, we can log into the administrator of the site. We then see that this current version of WordPress allows us to upload a zip file so we can get remote code execution on the machine. Then we can use that to get a reverse shell as a www data user. We then see that we can run GDB as another user, offensivehack, which we use to move laterally. We then see that the offensivehack user is part of the Docker group, which allows us to create a Docker instance and achieve root access to the machine. So pretty cool machine. I cover a couple different things. So without further ado, let's get started. So first, I created a folder called Recon. We're going to go ahead and open up terminal. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so we can see. So the first thing to do is we're going to find our IP address. So that's ours. Then we're going to run the Nmap command, -v for verbose output, min rate 10,000. We're going to scan our network starting with .3 all the way to 254, and we're going to grep for anything that's open. So we're going to go ahead and enter the password because we're running a sudo. And if you give it a little bit, it finds the this IP address 10.0.2.27. So, and we do have a couple ports open, 2 ports open, 22, which tells us it's running SSH, and 80, which tells us it's an HTTP web server. But we want more info, so we won't go ahead and do a -sv to enumerate versions, -sc to run default scripts, -on to save our output to a file called nmap.txt, the IP address, and -p to run more ports in case we miss some on this scan. Because if you notice, I didn't run an all ports option just to save time, because I'm really looking to find the IP address and not that many ports. So it's pretty quick, especially when you have a Vulnhub machine in the same NAT network. And we have port 22, which we knew is open SSH, running open SSH 7.2p2, and it tells us it's an Ubuntu machine. And we have port 80 running HTTP, a web server, running Apache 2.4.18. It does tells us it's running WordPress 5.3.11. And the typical supported methods. So we already have an idea. We have a WordPress site on our hands. So let's stay organized. I meant to call this Nmap with Alt-Shift-S, but that way I kind of know if I have another window what to use. So let's go ahead and move over to the website. So we have 27, and we have this hello world post WordPress, just on a WordPress site called Recon, which is the name of the machine. We do get a username called Recon. Okay, and this could be helpful in case we want to go to the admin site, which is typically wp-admin, and if we find a password, we can use it to log in. A lot of times when I see a user, I try the username and a weak password like password. It does tells us that there is a username recon, something like that. In this case, it doesn't work, but it's always good practice. So if we look at the posts, not much. Get a comment. I also like to look at the post in case there's comments from other users, and in this case there are none. So let's go ahead and create a users file called. We can add our first user, and let's keep looking. Now from here, there's 2 ways we could have found the next user. I'll cover both, right? The methodology behind it. So if you notice, when we clicked on the post, if we go to the main site, there's nothing here on the URL. If we click on any link, we have a index.php directory. So the next thing we want to do is we want to run gobuster, and we could run it starting from here, but I want to look at other posts because it looks like a lot of the things start after that index.php. So if we clear this, Alt-Shift-S, we're going to call this gobuster. We're going to run gobuster dir -u http index.php, and we're going to use this word list from seclist, the directory list, .3 medium text. We're going to save it to a file called index.txt, and I'm going to not print any of the progress output. We won't need it in this case. So it does find a couple of things. We have the RSS, so our assumption was right. We have the hello world, we know that exists, and it's finding pages for us. Hello world again, and we should find a couple more. And the one that stands out, and some of them I was able to ignore, like the Atom, RSS feed, things like that, but this one stood out to me immediately. Right click, copy link address. The one that's that says hack, because that's pretty unique. So if we go to that, we find the hack post by Recon author. So we have another username possibly, and we have this zip file. So if we click on the Recon author, we do get the username Recon author without a space, because it's very rare, if not at all, that we find a username with a space. So we can actually, we also get the SAM sample page. We could end it here. We're gonna add to our users file, and if we look over here, we see this hack link that takes us to allows us to download a zip file. So let's download that. We're gonna move that zip file here. We're gonna unzip it, and we get a hack.php, and if we read that, it appears to be some kind of reverse shell, like a reverse shell kind of file. So that's definitely interesting to keep in mind. Can't do much with it, nothing's exposed, but it's good to know. Keep that on the back burner. Another way to find that you probably could have found it not directly, but it could have pointed you in the right direction, is to run another gobuster scan from the base using the same word list. We're going to call this file dir.txt, and this is a standard thing with WordPress sites. You start here to see if there's anything that's out of the ordinary. So these files that start with WP, they're pretty ordinary. WP admin, that's the standard admin login page, includes, and you find a lot of files here. And we have the content. Includes doesn't always have anything interesting, but it's always worth looking when you're doing recon. But WP content is when themes, plugins, uploads start. So from here, if we start again, WP-content, let's see if I can type. Now we have themes, uploads, plugins, upgrade, and if we look at the upload site, and we couldn't run gobuster again on that, but we're gonna just skip that part just for the sake of time. And we have these directories which we can view. So this is always good to know that we have access to this upload. We have this articulate upload, which is interesting. And if we click on it, can't see anything, but that's good to keep in mind because this is not standard. And we have the year of the post. 2022, I don't believe has anything. That's just our current year. If you look at 2020, when this box was first released, we also have this zip file. So we don't get a username, but we can, if you didn't run a gobuster on starting from index.php, you know that there was something for you to find. It could have pointed you in the right direction. Not just stop at the recon. You see, okay, there's an upload somewhere, zip file. So we can actually get a lot from this. And then you could see is 2020, January. Let's see. Give it away. Hack. Oh, shit. Delete that. And yeah, so we have January 2020. So we could have eventually known that to look. It could have pointed us to run the gobuster index.php to look for something that we miss. But we're done here. Let's clean up our files that we don't need. I don't need dir, and I don't need I don't need that one. So we have, I'm gonna remove the hack files. I actually don't need those. So we have our users, and now we have our users file. So the next tool I want to use is WPScan. WPScan is just the automatic scanner that scans WordPress sites for any vulnerabilities, themes, versions. It works better now if you have a token, which you can get for free on WPScan.com. I think you're given 25 a day to have a more detailed scan. We don't need it on this case. We're going to go ahead and run it so that we can find passwords. I'm going to use the rocq-50.txt. And we're going to select our username file, and it's going to go ahead and run, and it does a scan anyway, so we can review it because it's going to go through the word list, and it takes about less than 2 minutes. So while we wait, we can kind of start our review. So it does passive detection, headers, it finds the Apache, which we already knew. It finds these XML RPCs, and it even tells you the links to Rapid7, which is tied to the Metasploit module. So you can read more about these scanners, the denial of service. You don't really want to use this. You'll never use this, at least in my experience. It even tells you that it found the README file. Let's see, what's this? Let me copy. Oh, come on. Okay, fine. See, just control click, and okay, so it tells you the install page, and if you're new to WordPress, you could find a lot of information about how to work around WordPress, especially if you're like completely new. Let's see, and then we see upload directly has listing enabled, which we already knew, but this could have been another way to find it. Let's see, we have the external cron seems to be enabled, another page. And it's still going. We have 50 something seconds left. It tells you what theme is using, the 2020. Okay, we have a readme text for it. Let's check that out. If you feeling like a good read, let's see, CSS style. So if you use the token, it does a little bit more of an in-depth scan. Which I remember when I first used WPScan, I was like, this doesn't tell me anything. And eventually and it tells you at the end to use the token, and it'll tell us in a second, so that you can get a little bit more of a scan. In this particular machine, it actually doesn't detect any vulnerabilities. And to be honest, a lot of times it doesn't, but it's still a good tool to use. In this case, it actually works for us. So it finds the password. Let's see, it tells us where it found it. I wonder if there's an option to stop it when it finds it, but maybe it's not useful in case it finds others, because I was using 2 users. So let's see. Yeah, it stopped here, and then it found valid combinations, Recon, Author, and Football 7. And it tells you right here, see, no API token given, so you can get a free token, 25 a day here. So anyway, we have our credentials, so let's save those. We have, who was it? Recon, Author, and Football 7. So now what? Let's go back to our WordPress site, WP admin, and we can log in. It was too big. Recon, Author, paste the password, Football 7, and we're in. And I make this a little bit nicer to see. So a lot of times with WordPress sites, as soon as you get admin access, I like to attack the themes first. If you can edit the themes file, because they're running PHP, if you can edit those, then you have code execution very easily, because then you just have to find it, and starting with the WP content directory. If for some reason we can't do anything with themes, plugins are the next best choice. They're not ideal because they could break the site, but next thing to do. In this case, we don't have access to those. We do see, the first thing that stands out is we have a draft that's available called add payload, which is unique. So if we click on it, and we see this add payload draft which hasn't been saved, and we can upload a file. Let's make this one bigger so we can see. So we can upload a file to the media library, which is very, very secure. trying to upload like some kind of malicious PHP file won't work to the media library. As far as I know, it's secure and it would just be a waste of time. But this one is interesting, the e-learning, which is just, teaching. It's really picked up when the pandemic started, but you can learn online, education, you could have run classes, things like that. And we do have this HTML site, and we recall this directory, our articulate uploads, when we were in our upload directory back here, right? So if you were stuck here, you could just Google like WordPress articulate uploads, see exploit, and we get this first link here from exploitdb, and we click on it. It tells us this WordPress plugin insert or embed articulate content to WordPress, so we can get remote code execution. And if we read it, see, so to WordPress, so this is particular version 4.2 tested on between 5.11 and 5.6, and that is a version. If you remember our Nmap results, it does fit the exploit, and it's, what was it? I forgot, 5.3, 5.3. We have, we fall right in between. So what it does is we create a zip file, right? Called hello HTML, index.html. Then we create a PHP, like a PHP payload, so we can get requests, so we can have remote code execution. Then we zip them up, compress them into a zip file. Then we log in and we code e-learning. So there's a match. We upload our poc.zip file. We insert as iframe, and then we access our shell from the URL that's displayed. So in this case, another way you could, is if you Google WordPress e-learning zip exploit. Is that it? So that was the original search I did, because I got e-learning and I knew we could upload, and if you hit click remove here, it tells you that you can upload a zip file. So putting those two together also takes you to this exact site, and we could just recreate the steps. So let's clear this, let's call this exploit, and we're gonna echo hello into an index.html file. We're gonna call it hacked, and I don't want to deal with line breaks. There's too many quotes here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create one of my own, index.php, and we're going to paste it. We're going to paste it to make our life easier, but I'm not going to use a get request. I'm going to use request, so that we could use both get and post. So we have that. Let's add it. There we go. And now it wants us to zip them up. We're gonna call them poc zip index, and then index. I'm gonna zip both files up, and we have our file here, right? And now we can, tells us just to upload it, and to make sure when you get to the insert as option, select iframe. So let's upload this. Choose our file, Recon POC, and we're going to upload. Tells us it's good. Go to POC6, insert as iframe. I think this varies, but it doesn't matter. So make sure that's selected. We're going to click insert, and we now have a new link. Okay. When I was working on the blog post, yours, if you're doing this the first time, it'll just say POC, but either way, you'll get a link, and we could just go right to it. We get our hacked page. So now can do is PHP cmd equals who am I. We are the www-data user, and this also was part of this exploit here. So anyway, now we can use I'm gonna leave page. Hope that saved it. Yeah, okay, so now we can use Burp Suite. I'm going to use the repeater function. So let's see, user options, display, do 15. Yeah, okay. And I'm not going to intercept it. I usually do, but a lot of, it's just quicker to do that, for me at least. Unless I really want to manipulate it. Oh, okay, hold on. Oh, got turn on. I'm using Foxy Proxy. Got turn on my intercept, and then go ahead. There we go. Then we have the history. So right click. I'm gonna send to repeater, and there we go. We have code execution right there. So what we're gonna do now is send. We're gonna change the request, and we're gonna get a reverse shell. So let's see, nc -lbmp 9001, and we're going to go bash -c -i that our IP address, and this isn't gonna work. There we go. URL encoded. And I lied, it works. So we have a reverse shell. That first time around it didn't work, and I think it's because I used the actual payload from the site, which was the GET request, as opposed to the request. When I was writing that post. But doesn't matter. We have a reverse shell, so we can do Python 3-C, and this is so that we can get a full functioning TTY shell with back commands and autocomplete. Bin bash control C to background, stty raw dash echo semicolon fg to bring that background process back up, and then we're going to export term equals xterm so that we can clear. And as you see, I'm a little messed up because of the window, but what we can do is just go back, and there we go. It's just too many, and I could fix it with like there's a couple ways to fix it, but I don't want. I want to go to my home directory, which is bar www. Okay, so we have a reverse shell. We're going to call this nc, and what do we do from here? So we can check sudo -l to see if www-data can run anything as sudo. It's rare, but it can happen. And we can run user bin gdb as the offensive hack user. That if we had checked the home directory, we have two users, hacker and offensive hack. We have access to offensive hack, but we can even read our first flag, but that's it. We can't do anything else. This is probably the next logical step. So we can Google GTFO bins GDB, and it does have one, and I missed it right here, and click the wrong link right here, second one. And GDB is basically a good way to debug like binaries. So in this case, if we scroll down, we have sudo command that we can use so that we can maintains our privileges as the user that's running it. So I'm going to highlight the whole thing, copy it, I'm going to do sudo -u to specify the user, offensive hack, and we could do it without a password. And we're gonna paste it and get this output. If we do ID, we are the offensive hack user, and we're also part of the Docker group. So before I get into that, let's go ahead and get a little bit better access. Let's go to our home directory as offensive hack, and we remember that port 22 is open. If we review our Nmap scan. So whenever I get access to reverse shell and I can write into a home directory of a user, I like to drop an SSH key. And that's what we're going to do. Alt-Shift-S, SSH. And we're going to go back to our reverse shell. I'm going to do make directory SSH. And of course, I don't have a full function shell, so let's do bash. There we go. If you type bash, you go into the bash shell instead of the sh. So now I can deal with that a little bit better. If you actually, from here, you press the up command, you kind of get an idea of what to do next. Actually, you can even read the bash history, and that also could have given you a good idea what to do next. That's always a good idea. See, so if you do cat docker run, so you kind of see that this user can actually run, you can spawn up instances. But anyway, and mess that up. So let's make a directory called a hidden directory called SSH. I'm going to go into it, and we're going to do SSH dash key generator dash F, and we're going to call this one ID RSA. It's the standard name. Passphrase, no. Well, I think I tabbed something. No, that's it. So now if we ls, we have these two files, and I cat that into a file called authorize.keys, and then we're going to cat ID RSA only. And we're going to go back to our SSH. We're going to create the same file. I'm going to give it the appropriate permissions. ID RSA. And we're going to SSH in as offensivehack at 10.0.2.27. And I forgot to specify my key. Yes. And there we go. We have SSH access. And we technically have two shells, and this is a lot easier to deal with. So, look at our groups, or ID. We're part of the Docker group. Brings us back here to GTFO bins. So if we go back to the root, or you know what, just Google GTFO bins Docker. And we click here. It says if we are in the Docker group, or we can our root, we can spawn an interactive shell when spawning a Docker container. So the resulting is a root shell. So we can run this command. Go to our SSH. Oh, one thing to cover, if you weren't sure what to do where this command came from, you could have reviewed etc ssh 6d config, and I believe it says so here. Let's see, I believe, yes, port 22. Let's see, permit root login, prohibited password. We cannot log in as root, but we'll cover that in a second. Let's see, say authentication. There we go. So authorized keys file in in the user's home folder, the user's folder, and in the file called authorized keys. So just good to know. But let's go back to our SSH, and let's make sure I have this copied. So we're just going to run this command because we're part of the Docker group. And what if I do bash instead of sh? There we go. We are in a Docker container and we're root, but if we do ID, we are root the whole machine. If we look, we're in the base directory, and if we do ls, we have the whole machine on here, right? So if we go to root, we have our flag, and we can, this is it, we got the flag, this is the machine, you know, we're in a container that it's emulating the machine, but, and we could end here, but what if I want just to have access to the machine. I don't believe I can change the password from here because I'm in a container. But what I can do is I can sshd.config, and we're gonna go down the right. Where is it? Permit root log. I'm looking for permit root login. I bet you I missed it. But essentially, I'm gonna allow root to. There we go. So permit root login. Yes. And this is gonna be commented out. We're gonna save it. I don't think I typoed anything. And it's not over yet. I'm gonna have to reset the VM, which I'll do. And the next thing I'm gonna do is, if we go here, we don't have SSH keygen on this container. I lied, we do. So we're gonna go to, where are we? I forgot. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna make directory ssh cd ssh, and we're gonna do ssh.keygen. We're gonna call this one root, and we're gonna do the same thing. .pub into authorized keys. Cat root. Save this file. I'm gonna call this one root. Make this bigger. Call this root. Chmod 600 root. But let's see, if we try to log in, it's not gonna work. Let's see. Root. Let's see. I don't think restarting the service would work. I lied. We can log in. So a lot of times when you do any changes to the SSD config, it's supposed to, you have to restart the service. In this case, it worked in our favor. And we have root access to the actual machine, not a Docker container. And we can get the flag. See, because any changes I was doing on that container was happening live on the machine. So we can even look at the bash history, maybe how this little file was created. See, he removed the payload. That's nice. He created a MySQL file, the config file, used nano for the user text. So you could see the history of how this machine was created, which I think is really cool. And then powered off. So that's the machine. A lot of fun, a lot of ways to do different things. I really enjoyed this machine. It's very well made. And again, it covered the recon. I think the hardest part was finding that user, because if we go back to the WordPress site, I'm logged in, but we get this recon and there is no password for this recon user. So at least I don't think so. And let's see. So let's log out. So let's do recon football 7. Yeah, you see, so that, just so you could see, football 7. So as you can see, that password wouldn't have worked at all. And if we clicked on the name, we don't get the recon author. If we go to any categorized post, it doesn't find it. I didn't try this the first time. Recon. See? So this file, there's no other way. Without doing the proper recon with gobuster and things, there's no way you could. It would be very hard to have found that recon author. You just have to kind of do the proper recon, and once you find the recon author, it kind of follows from there. You get thrown a little curveball on that e-learning plugin, because usually if you've done any WordPress site hacking, you automatically want to go for themes. plugin. So I really like that little curveball there. And then from there, just follow proper searching on the GDB and Docker exploits. So that's the machine. Hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.